I am back, and you are flying high with me, the Zigzag Man, over the zone in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco in the northern part of what I consider to be the greatest state in the Union, maybe New York notwithstanding, because that's where I grew up and that's where my heart is. But in any event, I'm here again, and I have a terrific surprise. I'm going to turn the entire show over to the most interesting man in baseball, returning to the comfortably zoned network airwaves, Mr. Lenny Randle. Take it, Lenny.
Ciao tutti. Adesso, per l'italiano, you want me to speak English or talk San Francisco?
Well, yeah, I thought that was English, and in San Francisco they speak like 28 different languages, so you can speak any way you like. Do you speak any Yiddish? That's the only thing I want to know.
I speak Australian. I have an Australian guest who worked with Nelson Mandela by the name of Johnny Louch.
Come on, Randy.
I'm going to put you all over the country. South African. Okay, let me get it right. South African, Ralph, by way of Australia. Let me put it like that.
Hey, welcome to the airwaves, my friend. Any friend of Lenny Randle's is my buddy, because he's been a friend of the network for since there was a network, and my friend as well, which is more important than the network. So take it, Lenny. You talk to your guest.
I want to give you kind of a lead, Ralph, and all you 25,000, that will be 50,000 after today. This gentleman that I'm talking to is always pumping gas because he's a motocross racer, one of the best-known motocross racers of his time. You can Google him or you can Instagram Johnny Louch. He has about a 5,000-minute following, and he's very humble, and I think he's on Monster Drink. That's what keeps him going. Monster Drink.
Yeah. Monster Energy.
And he has a facility. Let's talk a little about, because you're doing some great things with the kids that you're training on the motocross scene, which are all athletes working on strong wrists, strong hands, stamina, and durability. What is the key to your success, Johnny Louch?
I think the main thing is, you got to just believe in something and follow through. I think a lot of people don't follow through on things. I think, one of my things was like, I like to look outside the box. I'm not one of those guys that try to do everything the same as everybody else. I do things like, if I believe in a way of doing things is the right way, then I'll go ahead and I'll try it. And same with the facility. When I did the facility, of course, as you know, it's not the same. It's not the same as a regular gym. It's more open, so you can do sprints. It's not a gym where there's a bunch of machines and you just go from one machine to the next machine. This training facility is designed for athletes, and there's nothing like that out in this area, or pretty much anywhere where I'd go. So it was always something I wanted to do, because when I'd go to like LA Fitness or some of these other facilities, I could not train my athletes properly because it just wasn't designed for athletes. And I think that's what makes it successful. Is just like, even training people, you got to listen to athletes. You don't just go, oh, well, this is what the book says. Well, the book doesn't mean anything. It's like, I used to be a fireman, and when they told us, they said, when you get out of the academy, everything we taught you, throw it out the window, because it's different out there on the, out there in the real world. So that's how I approach everything with life.
When we start training out here, Ralph, it's amazing that we have NFL players like just played this weekend. The Cardinals' Liza Penny, running back, had a great day. Had some Cowboys and UCLA players. Division I players are coming here with Bradley Randall, NFL, and Vikings. And MLB players like Aaron Judge of the Yankees will be coming out here. And Seattle Mariners, friends of mine that I play with, will be bringing their kids out here to get 4.3 speed. Now, the funny thing about it, Johnny, when we grip a handlebar on our bat, or we grip a weight, that grip is a key to what your success will be on how much power you have when you hit, when you change the motor engine, or when you have making that big hill, Ralph. So you ever try to take a hill on a bike, a BMX or a mountain bike? And some guys' wrist, they pull a carpal tunnel, or they'll pull a muscle. So we teach stamina. durability and strength.
Yeah.
You both teach. You both teach basically as an avocation now. Give me a good example of somebody that came in on a level that you thought, wow, I could help this person, but he or she is not going to progress beyond a certain level, and they surprised you. Someone who went beyond.
Ralph, the guys we like, they're the Bo Jacksons, and they're the, that did bow and arrow training, ran track, played baseball, played football, and they were told, Michael Jordan was called a jerk. He was a C player. He became a B player, then he became an A player. Give me a bunch of B, C, D players, and we'll make them an A player. Now, the A guy's already got talent. Everybody wants him. Give me the B, C, D, F guy, and we'll turn him into something polished, phenomenal, and hungry, because they're hungrier than the A guy.
Yeah. What's the fundamental thing you have to change in that athlete to make them progress? With the common denominator, everybody's different, but what is the common denominator that can make a pretender into a contender?
In Johnny's sport, heart and desire. You got to have heart to go over a hill, to go over a cliff, go 400 feet in the air, 150 feet in the air, and then land on Mother Nature, and you don't know how you're going to land on a tire. You have no clue. When you turn in a corner, making a left turn, all of a sudden you got to go up a hill. That's stamina and cojones. We call it balls out, okay? In baseball, when you talk smack to a pitcher and you go in the box and you say, I dare you to hit me because I can catch your fastball with my bare hand, I don't care if it's 95 or 98, and then I'm going to steal second and steal third, and then I'm going to ask you, who's your daddy? Okay? Who's your daddy? That's whack.
Okay. So there's a
we can show it, or we can talk it, or we can do it.
In every successful athlete, there's got to be a certain amount of that. There's got to be.
You got to have swagger. You can't be shy on the radio. Ralph, if you were shy on the radio, your show would be bombed. If Michael Jackson didn't do what he did, he hid behind the shyness, but when he went on stage, he was the star. So you could be as timid as you want at home, but when you cross those lines, or you get on that track, or you play on that tennis court, or you on the NFL floor, or you a ball brothers, you're getting ready to ball out, you got to have swagger when you cross that line. And we teach self-esteem. You've got to have self-esteem. Johnny's daughter even has self-esteem, and she's a DJ.
Yeah, you got to have confidence. You got to have confidence in yourself for sure. If you want to be successful, it's how you look and how you feel. And and the main thing is with any sport, it's so mental. It's like a lot of these guys that, like you said, these guys out there with a lot of talent, and they know they're good, so they don't try as hard. It's like when you get a B player or B athlete that wants it bad, and they just don't have that talent. They're normally the ones that go the furthest because they try harder and they want it bad. It's like it's like in any sport, in supercross, motocross, or whatever you do in football, soccer. The people that have the most talent are normally the ones that aren't, that successful or actually go that far. It's normally the guys that, really have to struggle to get there. And I think that's why a lot of foreigners do well. Yeah, like for me, from being from South Africa, I mean, I had to come here with nothing and make it happen, and I see people like, they say, oh, well, how did you get this far? Like I said, because I knew what I wanted and I went for it. And, sometimes when you have it too easy and you see it like even in America, yeah, people have it so easy. They don't get to where they need to be because they don't have to. It's just kind of going through the motions. So same with sports. And that's what we try to do in our facility. Like we want to show people that, if you really want it and you want to go be successful, put the work in it, and you can be successful. If you want to just kind of go through the motions like a lot of athletes do and not try, you're going to just be an average guy. And that's why we call it the W, for winning. We're all about winning. Right. As long as you're trying. Doesn't matter if you're not the best guy on the team, but if you're giving it 110%, then, you're winning. You're part of the best.
Well, these are skills that transcend sports into real life. No matter what you do, yep. All these things have to come into play. So,
let me give you a good example. Go ahead. There's like Bruno Conti, who came from Nettuno, Italy, little town, nobody knew him. Great soccer player, captain, went to World Cup. Maradona, put under the table, told he was a jerk, along with Mike Tyson. Orphans, peed on him, teased him, called him all kind of names. So he had to build up a shield. You grow up with a chip on your shoulder, you appreciate life more. It might be hard. Merriweather could have been cocky, but Gregor was homeless. Look at the success if he had continued to be homeless. It takes a heart and desire to get out of your situation, and you can motivate yourself enough. From South Africa, Cristiano Ronaldo, he was a guy playing soccer in the streets, and all of a sudden he's kicking a can, and somebody goes, "Dude, if you can kick a can like that, can you kick a soccer ball like that?" And he goes, "Yeah, with my nose."
Yeah,
so
right.
It's all over the world. There are great athletes, and I've seen them all and been around them all, Ralph and Johnny. And in South Africa, I saw some of the greatest tennis players ever. I was with Arthur Ashe, and while I was over there, I was going, how come these guys won't play baseball? It's not a sport yet. It's not recognized as a national sport. How come these guys don't want to be Muhammad Ali? When Ali went over there, it changed boxing. Guys like Johnny thought, well, if I don't do motocross, I'll be Muhammad Ali.
There you go.
It plants a seed globally.
Johnny, while I have you, you got to tell me about Nelson Mandela.
Oh, man, I tell you, okay, so it was very interesting time in South Africa. So I grew up in South Africa during the apartheid, and it's hard to explain to people because I thought more racism in America than I did when I lived in South Africa. Because it's hard for people to understand. Like growing up in South Africa, we had maids and we had gardeners, and I grew up with black kids. They became like the maid would when we were young. We had our maid was part of our family. People call them, they weren't like we didn't consider them as servants. We called them as part of our family. Like our maid recently, she's passed away now, but she was part of our family. Even when we moved here, we stayed in contact with her. So we grew up in South Africa knowing that there was with apartheid, we were separated. The black and the whites didn't live together. But we knew it, growing up, we didn't know it was right or if it was wrong. We had no clue because it wasn't like how can I explain it? Like, I respected, like, I never had a problem with a black person ever in South Africa in my whole life. We respected each other. Like, if I saw you on the road, for example, if I was driving down the road and I saw two white guys beating up a black guy, I'm going to stop and help the black guy. Vice versa, whatever it is. It's just the way we were brought up. But in South Africa, when you get older, you kind of realize, because when you're a kid, you don't see the wrong in things. So when you got older, it was a time when I was like, okay, apartheid isn't right because, the blacks couldn't vote and they couldn't go to the same schools as us. And so as I got older, I started to realize because, I grew up with black kids and we were friends. And I was like, this isn't the right way to do things. But I understood what apartheid was because what happened was there's 300 different tribes and all the tribes in South Africa really didn't like each other. So you had the Zulus and the Xhosas, and Nelson Mandela was a Xhosa. Now the Zulus are the biggest tribe in Africa, and they didn't like each other. So they're trying to figure out how are we going to do this? Like, how are we going to make South Africa a country as one? Well, of course, Nelson Mandela, back in the day, he started the ANC, and then his wife was very radical, and he didn't agree with any of that stuff. And the reason why he was actually thrown in jail, a lot of people don't know, is that he was part of one of the biggest bomb blasts in South Africa with a train. It wasn't him physically that did it, but it was his party, and he was really upset about it. But anyway, to go to the long story on Nelson Mandela and why South Africa is the way it is today, if it wasn't for him, the country would have gone to civil war because you've got the Afrikaners that are kind of like the KKK of South Africa, and then you've got the English that are like me that are kind of like we're from British descent, even though my family's half Dutch, half English. We wanted South Africa to be one and to be a country. If we wanted to be successful, we knew that the whites need us. I mean, the blacks need us, and the whites need and the blacks need the whites. So when Nelson Mandela was coming into power, I was a fireman in South Africa. I was actually a SWAT paramedic, and I worked at one of the biggest fire stations in South Africa and police forces. And it's basically where it would be like Washington. Well, the presidents before used to, land and then get in their cars and just take off. So when Nelson Mandela came into power, all the Afrikaners, like these extreme right-wing guys, were like, screw this guy. We don't even want to meet him. We can't stand him. We can't believe we've got a black president, blah, blah, blah. Well, Nelson Mandela came in and he landed his helicopter. And next minute we hear, before the helicopter landed, we heard everybody that's on duty needs to come to the parade ground. So all these white Afrikaners were so pissed off. They're like, who the hell does this guy think he is, making us all come out to the parade ground? Well, Nelson Mandela landed his helicopter, got out of the helicopter, and he came up to every single one of us. There's 27 guys on duty, and he shook our hands, wanted to know about our kids, wanted to know about us, spent at least an hour on the fire station ground, and then took off. And these guys were shocked. They were like, I can't believe it. Like, we've never met any of our presidents. They land and they just take off. So they knew something was very special about Nelson Mandela. And then a few weeks later, he landed again and spent time with all the firemen, asked about the kids, remembered. He was very, very good at remembering people's names and what they, what kind of family they had, what their background was, the kind of background they had.
He took a genuine interest.
Yeah, like you couldn't not like this guy. And he had this presence about him that it's very hard to explain. Like he was very, very loving man, very nice man. I have a lot of respect for him, of course, and he was a great guy, man. And we need more people like Mandela in this world. I mean, because if it wasn't for him, the blacks would have got into power and there would have been civil war, because there was a lot of hatred towards the whites and even vice versa. And Nelson Mandela was like, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. Nelson Mandela said, if I hadn't gone to prison for 27 years, I probably wouldn't be alive. He goes, you can't look at things and go, oh, well, I went to jail for this. He goes, you got to look at where we are now. And he goes, when Nelson Mandela, the people that he had around him that what actually made it very, very interesting is he became very good friends with the guards. And these were Afrikaner white guys. And he actually became very good friends with them. And they were also a huge part of, a lot of people don't understand the history, but they were a huge part of bringing South Africa together, where the extreme whites and the extreme blacks that hated each other actually realized that they actually have a lot in common. They became friends through this whole process, and that helped the other generations, and that's why in South Africa now, if you go to South Africa, it's not, there's not this white-black thing. You know what I mean? Like, even in America, I feel like, this, like, it's different. Like, it's hard to explain that I've had Americans come to South Africa and they get it. Like, the blacks in South Africa, they don't talk about the past, and the whites don't talk about the past. And I think people should still remember the past, but you have to move on. It's like, even in America, like, people will bring up things from the past and the new, and I believe generations should learn about things, but also sometimes when you keep bringing up stuff and things, it teaches people more hatred. You know what I mean? It's like, like I look at my kids now, like my son's 13, his friends are black and white. He doesn't he doesn't see color. You know what I mean? He sees them as his friends. Yeah. And when we grew up, it's like, people made it like, oh, we're so different. But now it's been years, and I've seen South Africa how Nelson Mandela was a huge part of that. He was like, you know what? We all one. Yeah, we're different in the way we look, in some things that we believe in, but at the end of the day, we all one as humans.
Now, Mandela was a very smart attorney, guys, just so you know, and just so fans will know.
Boxer.
And he was a great boxer. And funny thing about it, when I look at you, Johnny, I think of Justin Timberlake. I see a Justin Timberlake putting the world together for world peace, through music, and you're doing it through sports. Your charisma, international charisma, is the same international charisma that Justin Timberlake has. And you're using it in sports at your facility. And unknowingly, if people don't know you as much as we know you now and how they will start knowing you after this interview, you're a global presence. I remember doing a tribute to Mandela. We were in L.A. and Compton, California. A lot of people don't know about Mandela in California or in the United States for that matter at all, like you know of, Johnny. And it's amazing that you had a chance to eat, live, sleep, hang out, and see a part of history that people don't know. It transfers over to America. Those are the roots. It transfers, you know, Ralph, you know how the water in the Atlantic somehow ends up on the Pacific, or it ends up on the East Coast?
Right.
And now with the hurricane, water's coming from everywhere.
And the radiation in Japan ends up on the coast of California. So things move around.
So that transition of what you're talking about, hopefully to heal America, Johnny, what you're doing and what message you're bringing, because your 13-year-old kid could probably end up being the next beast mode as a football player.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, it's just interesting how life is. I mean, just where I am now in America, growing up in South Africa and being here, it's interesting, especially when you travel the world. I mean, I've been all over the world. I know you have, and you get to see how the world's huge. I mean, it's big. There's a lot of different places,
it is amazing.
cultures, and you know, people look at things.
Lenny,
you know?
I've never asked you. Speaking of guys being all over the world, you are ambassadors. What brought you to Italy originally, Lenny?
What brought me it's the same thing. I'm gonna give you a relationship. You know what brought Ichiro to America? You don't know what brought Johnny to America. You don't know what brought me to Italy. Let me give you a little history. All my coaches and managers and principals in school, when we read books in high school and college and middle school, we read about Italy, General Patton, and then I ended up having Yogi Berra as a manager and a coach, and I ended up hearing his stories about Italy. And I hear Roy Campanella's stories about Sicily. I hear my principal talking about we fought a war in Africa, South Africa, Korea. So it made me curious about why are we beating up those countries and we don't know these people. These are good people. And then when the players told me, and the managers, Billy Martin and Ted Wynn, said, Lenny, you got to go to Italy because it saved America. They beat Hitler. Hitler would have taken over the world if it wasn't for us. We quit baseball to go over there and save our country. So you got to quit and go over there and save those kids. And I went, what? I'm going, what? That's too deep for me. I'm trying to get a single. And they're talking about an ambassadorship to go over and save Italy. So I studied in the off season. I studied 31 countries. I went to South Africa, fairs with that, Algeria, Japan, Korea, Canada, 31 countries, fairs. I speak 5 languages. And when I did all these trips, I thought about world peace. I thought about the Pope throwing out the first pitch in a game in New York City, Yankees and Mets. I thought about the Pope bringing and solving all problems all over the world. Yeah, I visited Buddhism. I hung out with a teammate, Willie Davis, who was a Buddhist. I hung out with Hindus. I went to Beersheba. I went to the Wailing Wall. I went to Lebanon. I went on a pilgrimage to find out what does everybody really want. Everybody wants peace and God, period. Everybody, some want wealth more than that. Some want more women more than that. Some want more cars more than that. But everybody's trying to find divine peace regardless. Because when you get older...
in the world and inner peace as well.
Inner peace. Yeah. And then when people start turning 60 and 70 and 80, everybody starts turning religious. Why not be that way at 18, 19, 20?
Right.
Well, that's all depending on how you look at it. There's no argument.
So that's how I ended up in Italy.
Lenny,
I played in the World Games also made me want to curious about Italy.
Yeah. I was just going to say in regard to religion, faith is faith. Can that be taught?
Well, it's kind of, you even know you're a good person. If you're a good person, like Donnie's a good person, got a good soul, sure, we can have a bad day, bad hair day, bad week, bad moment. Everybody has temper tantrums. Even the president, the Pope, everybody goes through a human error. But the thing is, in your soul, because of your parents, your grandparents, that's where you really are. Who brought you up is how you really are going to be. I used to think that every kid I met.
Into that, in your thinking, how does religion come into that? Because up
It
till
comes
this
into
moment, we agree. It's your parents, it's your upbringing, it's all of that. It's your friends, the influence, your cousins, all of it. But where does religion is so intangible? Let's put it that way.
Let me tell you like this: when you're 1 year old, you come into the world, a doctor slaps you on the butt, and you start crying, and you go, "Oh my God!" Then he want to baptize you, and you go, "Why do you want to baptize? You just beat me up." Well, you go from the doctor to the priest. And the priest is, you're 5 and 6 and 7 year old, you're taking a dip in the water, you go in the wailing water, you're doing something and you don't even know why you're doing it because your parents are guiding you. Your grandma, your grandpa, your parents are saying, we got to go to church on Sunday. You never ask at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, why are we going to church on Sunday? You just did it. It was just innate. And if you were raised with parents that didn't go to church on Sunday, then they had it at the house. Or they had a prayer at dinner or breakfast. I don't know one family didn't say thank you God or Jesus for the food. Johnny, you know anybody that didn't thank for the food?
Well, the Tikachinskis and the Schnevides never said that. But that's right. It's a basic grace. It's saying, thank you, Lord. This, that, and the other thing.
Thank somebody. Thank Daddy. Thank Mama. Thank Lord. Somebody got to be thanked to eat. You got to thank somebody for the food. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, it
makes you feel good. It makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good.
Of the masses. It's the opiate of the masses, and it can't be denied. It needs some help. Every organized religion needs some help in their own hierarchy. I think the 501c3 thing is craziness.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's a Claude Erskine joke right now. I'm not going to go there, but unless you want me to.
Well, you can go. This is podcast radio. Go anywhere you want to go.
I was listening. Johnny, do you know who Claude Osteen is?
Who?
Claude Osteen. You've heard of Martin Luther King.
Claude Osteen. Claude Osteen is.
You might who Billy Graham. You heard of Billy Graham? Who's the most famous preacher or religious person you know, Johnny, in your life ever?
Billy
Mother
Graham.
Teresa. Anybody? Go ahead.
Oh, Billy Graham.
Billy Graham.
I've met Billy Graham. My dad's a preacher. I met Billy Graham.
Tell me about that. Go ahead.
My dad used to bring Pat Boone, Debbie Boone, all those different religious people to South Africa. My dad was in charge of the censor board, so I met Billy Graham with my dad.
Wow.
Now, can you picture Billy? Now, that's a great story because a lot of people haven't met him; they've only heard him or saw him on TV. Can you picture Billy Graham?
I met Billy Graham in Orange County, California, years ago. He came to a church that we were going to, and I knew my dad, and this is, a few years ago. He was really, really old, but I've met his son as well. So just because I've been around the church my whole life, my dad, like I said, my dad was a preacher, so he still is a preacher in South Africa.
Now, you think a good preacher would make a good president?
I think so.
Well,
I'll tell you
the best preacher I ever heard when I was a kid was Marjo. Remember Marjo?
Marjo, yeah, San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury. Yeah.
Well, he was an evangelist, and they did a documentary on him, and he might have made every bit as good a president as we have now, if you can imagine that.
Can you imagine? You think it'll ever happen that we'll have a minister for a president, like Jesse Jackson or Billy Graham or Joel Osteen?
Well, put it this way,
Lenny, just throw something in there, Lenny. How about separation of church and state in the Constitution? I just want you to think about that for just one quick second, that wouldn't be good for a number of reasons. But that's, they make better speeches than we have. I don't know. I don't know what to say and how to end it. We have gotten a look at Johnny. This is a terrific interview. We got to really know you. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you what you took away from your Billy Graham meeting that you bring to life. You bring to your teaching. Johnny?
Yeah, no, I'm here. I mean, I don't know. He's just a great guy. I mean, I was lucky. I've been brought up with my dad being a preacher and being a great guy. And
right.
I mean, so when I met him, I was impressed, but it wasn't like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to take something away. You know, like I said, I've always thought my dad was the best preacher ever because my dad was one of those guys that, you know, kind of preached it, said it how it is. You know, that's the kind of preachers that I like. You know, people that don't, you know, I don't know if you guys go to church, but I don't go to church as much as I used to. But you know, when you go to church and you look at a preacher and you go, this is a waste of my time. And then you go to a church where the preacher like really says it how it is. You know, I think there's different churches for different people.
It starts in your heart. When your heart tells you something's good, and you know, you may not need to go every Sunday. You could have it at home. You could have it while you're driving in.
Yeah, exactly. I don't go that much anymore. I mean, just because I just don't. I haven't found a church that I really like. But you know, I mean,
you took it away you took Billy Graham away as a regular guy, just a regular guy on the street, basically, because you saw him.
If I met him when he was younger, I mean, he was great. I mean, he was great. You know, when I met him, he was really old, and it wasn't like he was preaching that much. He was kind of talking a little bit. But I know his history, and I know he was a great man, and he was an unbelievable preacher. But,
did he talk sports? Did he talk sports at all?
Did he talk women? I'm always curious about that, Lenny. I gotta say.
Well, all preachers talk about women. I mean, come on, you're a man.
I know they do, and I'm not looking for any inside stories to Billy Graham's love life. But it's a thought, you know. We could do another show on that someday. Hey, guys, you are terrific. I'm going to put this in the can. I'm going to send you a link to it, Lenny, and I want you to send that link all over the world. Make Johnny
5 million people, baby. Johnny, do me a favor and send him on Facebook, Ralph Tyko. I'll link you guys together as well. And all you Italian friends listening now, right now you guys are live in Italy, so they're listening. So I'll be interpreting. Ragazzi italiano, tutti posto così, io vengo l'ottobre, io vengo lì. Grazie tutta Europa. Johnny, you're an amazing man, brother.
Thank you, brother.
You are indeed, Johnny. A privilege to have you, and always a privilege to have Lenny on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tyko, flying high over the zone. I'll be back, and Lenny will too, I'm sure.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
It was a pleasure.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Good yontif.
Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.
All right.
Cheers.
Adios, guys.
Ciao, guys. Bye-bye.
Ciao, bye.